Hi, it's Lynn Shuck with Healing and Balance. We're going to look at some ways to assist with getting these upper arms and shoulder blades in a better position. This is something that most of my classes, my students, my clients, and most of the people I know struggle with. And we don't want to end up hunched over old people. But because we have a culture that's created that climate, that's what's happening. Shoulder blades pull apart and start to round off to the sides, which creates this collapse in the chest. Often they even hunch up forward because of all the typing and bent over work that we do. We don't do a lot of stuff that's upright or that takes us in the other directions. In Eischens Yoga classes, we use a particular pose called prone mountain, and we have particular instructions about getting the shoulder blades onto the back and ways to do it. The simplest method is when you're standing, you can even see because of the stripes that my upper arm, my humerus bone is angled forward, right? It's not vertical, it's angled. And so to make it vertical, I just want to take the top part of the bone back. And as I take the top part of the bone back, you can see my shoulder blades become less visible because they start to slide toward each other onto my back. And you also see my spine get a little more upright, and I can start to bring my head above my spine. Now, what I'm not doing is thrusting my ribs forward to take my arms back. That doesn't actually even change anything. It just looks like it does. So this is some work to keep my ribs down and just take my upper arms back and then slide my head back and up. And it's the back of my neck going up. Now, standing here in mountain, well, I'm not standing at the moment, but when we're standing in mountain, this is what we do. We want to slowly bring the arm back. And when I say back, I actually want you to think of the humerus pressing into the triceps, because when we change positions and come into table and downward dog and other poses, you still want to get that arm bone to press into the tricep. If my arms are out in front of me and I press my arm bone into the tricep, you can see the same thing happening. My chest widens, my shoulder blades slide into place, and I'm using a lot of the same muscles in my upper back and in the sides of my body up near my armpits and in my arms. So one of the poses that I said we work on in Eischens Yoga is called prone mountain. And in that pose, sometimes we have partners to help create some extra work. We use partners for weight resistance mostly. And why we do this is for the same reason anyone does weightlifting. I can work on my biceps by doing curls without any weights. I can isometrically squeeze my hands up toward my shoulder and open that back up, and I will slowly build some strength in my arms. But if I put a 20-pound weight in my hand and start doing bicep curls, I'm going to build that weight faster. So we use weight resistance with partners in practice. I don't have a partner here right now, so what am I supposed to do? Well, what this video is about is some ways to use the floor as your partner, blocks as your partner, a belt as your partner, ways to assist you that don't require another person. It's not the same as the partner work, but it's pretty nice. So I'm going to put this video camera down on the floor where you can see what I'm doing. The pose itself, I have whole videos on, and you can see them, called prone mountain. And it looks like this. My fingers are down near the floor. My head is facing the floor. My shoulders are off the floor. And there's a little bit of lift in my chest. I'm not pushing my ribs into the floor to lift my shoulders. That's akin to pushing my ribs forward to bring my shoulders back here. I'm really just lifting my arm bone away from the floor, taking the humerus bone into the triceps again. Same movement, taking the arms back. Back meaning arm bone into the triceps. Now, just working here, my fingers are pretty light on the floor. I'm using muscle in my upper back and in my upper arms and along the sides of my body, and I'm trying to keep my ribs in as I hold this pose. And just doing that is some work. Much like doing those bicep curls without any weight, I can do it isometrically and do some work. If I want to increase the work, I add a little weight resistance, but I don't have a partner. So what I can do is with my fingers back here on the floor, let's see if I can angle that better. There we go. With my fingers here on the floor, I can press the back of my fingers into the floor, and that will allow me to lift my arms even more, to use more muscle in my upper back because of the resistance I'm creating with the floor. So I've created a partner out of the floor. And I would hold this for 5, 10 seconds, maybe 15. And again, when I come to rest, I want to bring my hands under my head. I don't want to come onto my chin because now I'm crunching the back of my neck. I'm not supporting my cervical curve. And I don't want to collapse to the floor because then I just created what I was trying to undo, which is that shoulder blades apart, rounded forward, collapsed chest. We don't want to do that. Now, so that's a way to create weight resistance using the floor. There are other ways to support this, and they're using props to help assist you to find the pose. I'm going to move this again. So one way is to take a belt. I like them to be 10 feet or longer. Unless you're very short, you're going to want 10 feet or longer. You're going to take the belt. It's a yoga strap. It has a buckle on one end that I'm not using at the moment for this particular pose. And I'm going to string this across my upper back, right under my shoulder blades, across the bottom of my shoulder blades and under my armpits. And then I take these two loose ends and just flip them over my shoulders. Woo-hoo. Really hard. Don't fling them too high. Don't fling them if there's someone behind you. Now at the moment they're hanging straight down, and that's fine. But what you want to do is cross them behind you. So they went straight over the shoulders and then they crossed behind, and you grab on either side of your hips. You don't want to pull forward. You don't want your hands hiked up to here. This is where the longer belt, it comes in handy. You want your hands down by your hips, and you're just going to pull straight down. Now as I pull down, it pulls my shoulder blades together and it pulls my upper arm back, and it creates that same positioning. If I don't have the strength, or if I'm so rounded forward, this might help me override my normal positioning. There is still the tendency to want to let the ribs fly forward. So now you have this belt crossed behind your back. You could pull your ribs back into the belt and still pull down with your arms. So I can do this in mountain. I could take this into forward folds, Uttanasana, or I can come right back down to prone mountain. Yeah, I know. I didn't figure out a good way to set up the camera, so you're going to deal with me putting it up on things and down. And then once I get back down here, I grab the sides, grab the belt on either side, and again I pull back toward my feet, which is like pulling down toward the floor when you're standing, and this can assist me to be here. I'm using a little less muscle in my back, but if I don't know where those shoulders go, this can help me learn. So this can be useful. Just so you know, I do have some students who, when they're traveling or when they're stuck at a desk, will set their belt up like this and then tie it in front. There are things that are sold that do this. I even have seen them on like Sky Mall before that magazine disappeared, that were to help hold you upright. And it just keeps that reminder of bringing those shoulders back so that you can't go forward. You'll feel the belt feel real tight on you. So it's that reminder, gentle reminder. Anyway, that's just an extra little pro tip there. So that's two ways to work on prone mountain. I'm going to give you one last way to work on this. And this is very specifically for somebody whose shoulders are so tight that they don't have the strength yet to override how firmly set their shoulder blades are apart and angled. You'll see this in somebody when their kyphosis in the upper back is hyperkyphosis, right? They're so rounded, and no matter what, they can't soften that. This is for them. So you would take blocks, and I've got them up on their edge, right? So they're the same, roughly the same height here, even though they're different widths. And you're gonna hook them right under the collarbones. So maybe I can show you. Yeah, that'll work. And then you would actually rest on that, letting the shoulder blade, the collarbones rest on that. I can't get this little one. Thicker blocks work better for this. And you would allow, instead of working to lift the arms, you're in the same position, but you're going to allow the upper back to soften here. And then you just want to keep holding that head up, extending the spine through your neck so that you don't collapse in the neck too. The neck's going to resist gravity, but you're allowing your body to relax toward the floor between your shoulders, between your shoulder blades. So there's 3 different ways to work on this. One is adding weight resistance by using the floor. One is using the belt and your arms to pull your shoulder blades into position while you do some of these poses. And one is actually creating a way to almost relax and release tightness. And it's really for those who are so tight that those other two options don't help, don't change anything, don't override those shoulder blades. This is a lot. And if you don't really know what prone mountain looks like, I urge you to go find one of those older videos. There's some pretty recent ones, even within the Let's Move More series, I did some. Go look at that and then see if you're adding these to it. One last thing about the belt. If you do use the belt, you don't want to use it for very long. You wouldn't use it for a whole practice, for example, because the tension in your arms might create new problems. But to do it for a minute or two while you're working in prone mountain, I often have people who start their practice getting their shoulders in a better alignment so that then when they do any other pose, they know exactly where those arms go and they're not thrusting their ribs forward and they're building that strength and starting to realign their upper back. So that's a lot of information. I think you can handle it. Any questions, you're always welcome to contact me through YouTube. You can go to my website and contact me there, through email. Yeah, I'm pretty accessible. I'm also on Facebook as Healing and Balance and on Instagram as Healing and Balance, and you can see a lot of this stuff there too. Okay, have fun with this. It's a lot. You can do it. Go.